about how like things were damaged, like your liver after chemotherapy and stuff like that. What about like your mentality? Was there any anxiety or depression that came along with
Uh,
being a survivor of chemotherapy?
when you ask that question, I'm going to answer with a metric fuck ton. Um, sorry parents, but there's no other way I can describe that. One thing about skirting death and being a cancer survivor, and we're actually getting into the things that the doctors didn't tell me. Um, I hope this part helps you guys out, and helps you watch out for your loved ones because they're probably going to be experiencing the same things. Um, Now, there's a thing called survivor's anxiety. Survivor's anxiety is that nagging thought in the back of your brain that makes you believe for just a moment that the cancer is back. The C word is back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chances are it's not. Um, but these are the thoughts that you can't help. One of the ways to counteract these thoughts is go do your checkups. Go do your screenings, go do your CAT or CT scans, whatever the doctor prescribes. Um, I know the sight of a hospital right about now makes you want to vomit, and it might actually make you vomit. You might actually pick up the bucket. Once again, there's no shame in that, but you need to muscle through it. Go to your checkups and make sure that you're actually okay because, remission is remission. It doesn't mean it's gone. If it was gone, they would call it eradication. There
Mm-hmm.
is a chance for it to come back. So, you know, one way for you to manage your mental well-being is to get your checkups, listen to your doctor. The other thing that's really common, that I was not informed of is, it's post-chemotherapy depression.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually really normal. Um, you know, as we mentioned before, uh, your brain has been put on the fryer through all these chemicals. Your brain has been chemically fried. So after chemotherapy, your brain is recalibrating. It's gaining back many of the chemicals that were depleted, destroyed. Some of them, most of them will come back. Some of them are gone for good.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how intense the treatment is. For the depression, I can't emphasize this enough. Exercise.
Yeah.
Walk, stretch, go outside and be social. Don't be a hermit. I know you're used to, staying inside, laying in bed, playing your video games. That all has its time and place, and that time
Mm-hmm.
and place is now gone.
Well,
Um,
speaking of like getting out and doing things, how was your social life before cancer, during chemotherapy, and then after? How was it uh, stage by stage?
before cancer, my social life was interesting. Like I said, I was kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, so there was that. I mean, I still had my really good friends, and those really good friends are still here.
Mm-hmm.
But there were people that just said that it was too much, and they couldn't handle it, and now they're off living their own lives.
Yeah.
Um, during chemotherapy, the real is, it wasn't the realization. I knew I was a prick.
Yeah.
Um, but the the why, the reason that I was being a prick was made apparent. Um, One of the things that I did was I went and explained to much of my peer group what was happening to me in the years before this. Some didn't require an apology, some did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
don't be above an apology. When you're apologizing, one, you're accepting fault. I know that's difficult, but a lot of that isn't your fault, and if they're a good friend, they'll realize that and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Personally, during chemo, my peer group was amazing. yeah, I work at a coffee house, and I'm friends with a lot of people that I work with. Um, you know, I showed up to work one day during chemo. I work 2 days a month, by the way.
Mhm.
You know, and I was freaking out about bills because
Yeah.
2 days a month doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
Um, and I showed up one day, and there was a tip jar with my
Yeah.
face on it that said "Help our Lyndon," and that was amazing.
That
Um,
sounds awesome.
yeah, they were, my peer group, my friends, my coworkers, my girlfriend, my family, they were the ones that got me through this. And, if they're worth the shit, they'll get you through yours too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of understanding that comes with this. And, one of the things about coming close to dying is many times the people you've wronged see this as a sort of absolution.
Mhm.
um, where, you explain it to them, and your karmic scale is set back to zero. You have a blank slate.
Yeah.
Um, this is one of the few times in your life where, as an adult, you can start the fuck over.
Mhm.
You know, because there's dying, and there's everything before that. Everything before that kind of doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
Um, Now, there are thoughts that come along later with the depression. What have I done with my life? What am I doing? Um, Remember, you've got a fresh start.
Mhm.
You've essentially got a fresh brain. Do something about it. Go out and go to school, or go travel. Go do what you want to do, because now's the time. I mean, you may not get it again.
Yeah.
So,
Um. All right. Where the hell am I? So you mentioned that you like went to your job and you saw that they had a tip jar. What was it like at being or still having a job while going through all this and even after?
well, the I was actually worried about that. Um, because I live in Texas. It's a right to work state. Um, and while it's illegal to fire someone for a medical condition, um, you and I both know that they can find the smallest thing
Yeah.
and say it's because of that, and just let you go.
Yep.
Um, my job didn't do that. So, employers, if you have kept your employees on for this long throughout this very troublesome time, it's going to require a little more patience from you. Um, because, while they're not dying anymore, your employee isn't out of the woods. They're still
Mhm.
healing, and they will be for at least the next year or two. Um, their mental state is fragile because they were dying. It's also fragile because they're broke, broker than
Yeah.
broke. Um, you know, being sick is not conducive to making money, especially to that specific caliber. I know that there were times that even on my allotted work days, I had to go home because my body couldn't take it.
Yeah.
My fingers wouldn't work. My memory wasn't there. I couldn't keep an order in my head.
Mhm.
This is going to continue. Your employee's body is going to burn. It's going to ache because they've lost a lot of muscle mass, and their ligaments and tendons have been damaged in the process of chemotherapy.
Mhm.
Along with their lungs, for a while, they're not gonna have the lung capacity. Um,
Yeah.
their memory, they're gonna forget what order they just took, even after chemo,
Mhm.
because the brain takes a while to rebuild. Um, so if you're in a board meeting and they forget a bullet point, or if you're in high energy customer service, um, they're going to need to take a break.
Mhm.
And please, 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 by all means, I implore you, allow them to do so. Otherwise, You're going to make life miserable for both them and you. And chances are, if they're miserable, they might just quit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and while they can get, federal and state aid, it's not really good for their mental state to not be working. So please, please, please keep that in mind.
So, along with like letting you take breaks and the tip jar, what else did your job do to compensate you through this?